الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Today is the first day of the sacred month Muharram al-Haram, and today I'll be giving a short lecture about the introduction of the journey of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. So we start off when Muawiyah died, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. When he died, he gave the Khalifa to his son Yazid, when there was clearly a peace treaty between Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Muawiyah. There were two main conditions. There was other conditions, but today we're going to be talking about the two main conditions. The first condition was what? That Imam Hassan alayhi salam told Muawiyah to stop cursing his father, because what was at the time when Muawiyah was in power, what was it at the time? Every khutbah, on Friday khutbah, they would curse Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. They would curse Imam Ali. For a few years, they would curse Imam Ali, and Imam Hassan realized, if they keep cursing my father, my father will be known to be somebody who was a rebel, and that cursing of Imam Ali should continue. So Imam Hassan said, okay, the first point is you need to stop cursing my father. And the second point was, when Muawiyah, or when you die, give the khilafat to me, or if I'm not alive, give it to my brother, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, unfortunately, broke these two conditions. So this can also be the cause of Karbala, the Battle of Karbala, because Imam Hussein's rights were taken away from him. His leadership was taken away from him. So now, if we understand the context of when Yazid came into power, Yazid realized that without the permission of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, Yazid cannot go anywhere, because unless you have the authorization or the permission of the Prophet's grandson, then you're not going nowhere. Because there is a Sahih tradition which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, that Hassan al-Hussein Sayyid al-Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, that Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are the leaders of the youth of paradise. So they're not just normal relatives of the Prophet's grandson. Being a relative of the Prophet, being a relative of the Prophet is a blessing on his own. But being called the leaders of the youth of paradise is an even greater blessing. So I think there's another authentic narration where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that they would fight Imam Hussein, even they would believe in Prophet Muhammad at the same time. They would fight Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and they would fight and they would believe in Prophet Muhammad as being the messenger. So now, if we go back to Imam Hussein realized that if he accepts Yazid, then Imam Hussein will be known as someone who accepted a tyrant ruler like Yazid. So Imam Hussein said in his famous saying, somebody like me can never accept somebody like Yazid. So Yazid knew that he cannot do anything with his power. If Imam Hussein is giving him trouble, he knows, because Yazid knew in the first place that Imam Hussein is going to give him trouble. He's the grandson of the Prophet. He knew he's going to give him trouble. So then Yazid realized that I need to put pressure on Imam Hussein so he can accept me. So at this point in time, Imam Hussein was in Medina. And you need to realize how Yazid appointed specific people in certain areas. So we'll go back to that in a minute. Imam Hussain was in Medina. Imam Hussain, when he was in Medina, he went to Makkah. And then the soldiers of Yazid followed Imam Mahdi, Imam Hussain to Makkah. They followed him to Makkah to try and assassinate him. So Imam Hussain realized that he needs to move from Makkah because there's an authentic tradition. There's a tradition by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Prophet said that there will be a frog that will die in this land. And Imam Hussain said, I do not want to be that frog. He said, I don't want my blood to be spilt in the holy land. Even though Imam Hussein's blood is as holy as it can get. He wants to respect the area and the sacred and the sanctity of the area. And he said, I don't want my blood to be spilt in holy land. So he left Makkah. And Imam Hussain also sent representative towards Kufa because the letters were coming from Kufa. So there was a specific companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a person by the name of Sulaiman ibn Surd. Sulaiman ibn Surd sent letters to Imam Hussain saying that, oh Imam Hussain, come to Kufa. We do not want to accept Yazid. We will accept you as our Imam. So Imam decided to send his representatives to Kufa. So he sent Muslim bin Aqil, who was then martyred by Ibn Ziyad because you need to realize Yazid appointed specific people, as I said earlier on. He appointed specific people. So now if we look at Yazid appointed Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad was appointed in Kufa. So if something happens in Kufa, then Ibn Ziyad will kill. He would kill anybody that he needs to. So Ibn Ziyad was the governor of Kufa. So Imam Hussain said, okay, I'm gonna go to Kufa. I need to go to Kufa. So then a lot of the things that the Shia gets accused of is that the Shia of Kufa betrayed Imam Hussain. This is not true at all. We do not betray the Shia of Kufa did not betray Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So as Imam Hussain alayhi salam was going from Makkah to Kufa, he gets stopped. And there was a letter came to him. It was in a certain place that he gets stopped, and there was a letter, and it said that Muslim bin Aqil and Hani bin Urwa were killed. They have been martyred by the people of Kufa. So now Imam Hussain realized that the people of Kufa have betrayed me. They've betrayed him. So now Imam Hussain realized that he still needs to go to Kufa to try and address the people that I am supposed to be your Khalifa, not Yazid. Because remember, Muawiyah broke the peace treaty with Imam Hussain alayhi salam to say that Imam Hussain is supposed to be the Khalifa of the Muslimin. So Imam Hussain continues his way to Kufa, and Imam Hussain gets stopped. Now he's about to get to Karbala. He's in Karbala, South Iraq, desert. Remember, this is a desert, scorching hot sand. So Imam Hussain, we need to understand that when Imam Hussain was in Karbala, South Iraq, desert, he gets stopped. And he gets stopped by a certain person. And the person who stops him, his name was Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi was the commander of Yazid's army. So remember, Imam Hussain said to Hur that I need to go. I need to go to Kufa. And then Hur said, no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay here. So Imam Hussain said, okay, no problem. And remember, Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he brought an army with him to block the borders of Karbala so he can't go to Kufa. So he brought an army with him. So now, if we see the number of the people of the army, some people say 5,000, some people say 10,000, some people say 30,000, some people say 40,000. The Muhakkikeen ulama, the Muhakkikeen of the research of the Shia school of thought, the Muhakkikeen ulama tend to say 20,000, but you can say 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. You can say as many numbers as you want, because I don't fuss about numbers, because it doesn't detract from what happened to Imam Hussain and his family. So they bring 20,000, let's just say for argument's sake. He brought Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi and Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad was another commander of Yazid's army. So they brought, let's just say 20,000 for argument's sake. He brought 20,000. So we need to see how many people Imam Hussain brought, because Imam Hussain, you need to realize he didn't bring an army. Imam Hussain could have brought an army, But he realized that he couldn't bring an army because he needed to save Islam. He needed to save Islam. So he brought his family, his friends, his family, his cousins, his brothers, his sisters, the women. And when I say the women, they're the Prophet's women. He brought his sons, he brought his daughters, he brought his brothers, etc. And companions as well. So 72 members from Imam Hussein's army. But let's just say, some people say 72 or 73. Let's just say that Imam sent 72 people with him. He came with 72 people, friends, family, relatives, companions, and cousins, close people to Imam Hussain and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now, when Imam Hussain got to Karbala, you need to understand that Imam Hussain came to Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram. He came on the 2nd of Muharram. So today is the 1st Muharram, and tomorrow is the day when Imam Hussain came to Karbala. So on the 2nd of Muharram, Umar ibn Saad came to Imam Hussain and he said, "Are you going to accept Yazid?" Imam Hussain said, "I will never accept Yazid." So now Yazid realized he needs to put a bit more pressure on Imam Hussain, because you need to understand that, remember, as I said before, Yazid, if he doesn't get the acceptance or the authorization from Imam Hussain, then Yazid cannot go anywhere. Because if Imam Hussain did accept Yazid, then Islam's finished. Islam's finished. Because if we look at the lineage from the side of Yazid and side of Imam Hussain, it goes back. So let's look at the side of Yazid. Yazid's father is Muawiyah. Muawiyah is the son of Abu Sufyan. Imam Hussain, however, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain are the sons of Imam Ali. And then before Imam Ali was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So then there's a lineage right there. So Prophet Muhammad fought Abu Sufyan in his time. Imam Ali fought Muawiyah in his time. Imam Hassan fought Muawiyah as well. But they had a peace treaty. They had a peace treaty with the two conditions that I mentioned at the beginning. And then Imam Hussain was like the last pillar for Islam. Because if Imam Hussain accepted Yazid, Islam's finished. Islam is over. Because Islam, there's a narration by in Sahih al-Bukhari, volume number 1, narrated by Anas ibn Malik. He said that when Imam Ali used to lead the prayers, Anas ibn Malik said, "You remind me of the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You remind me of the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." So now look at the big difference. Look how much Islam has corrupted. Look how much it's declined. Look how much it's gone downhill. So Imam Hussain was the last pillar, because if it wasn't for Imam Hussain, Islam would be down. There would be bid'ah after bid'ah after bid'ah. There'd be innovations. Islam would change completely. Because if you look at Yazid, all he did was what? Drink alcohol. He was a womanizer. And the Prophet Muhammad's family, or Imam Hussain, what was he? He was kind-hearted. He had manners. He had compassion for others. Whereas Yazid was the complete opposite. Yazid stand for racism. Imam Hussain stand for anti-racism. Yazid was discriminant against women, discriminant against others. Imam Hussain, however, was anti-discriminant. He was against discrimination. He was against the core of oppression. So clearly, this whole battle of Imam Hussain, there's a main lesson where it teaches us that Imam Hussain clearly taught us to be against oppression, to be against the zalim, to be against them, to have full-on force and be against oppression, fully down oppression. So now if we go continue, Umar ibn Saad said to Imam Hussain, "Are you going to accept Yazid?" Imam Hussain said, "No, I will never accept Yazid. Somebody like me can never accept somebody like him." So now, on the 7th of Muharram, I'm going a bit more off topic. So if we go to the 7th of Muharram now, the 7th of Muharram, Yazid wrote a letter to Umar ibn Saad saying to him to cut off the water supply. Cut off the water supply for Imam Hussain. So when Imam Hussein's water supply was cut off, he had a 6-month-old baby by the name of Ali Asghar. Now, some people say his name was Ali Asghar. However, if you go to the Iraqi or the Iranian or the Lebanese communities, they will say that the son of Imam Hussain was called Abdullah al-Radhiya, which I will explain tomorrow in the biography of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. His name was Abdullah al-Radhiya. However, if you look at because Ali Asghar, what it is, both are sons of Imam Hussain, there is no doubt. However, Abdullah al-Radhiya is a 6-month-old baby, and Ali al-Asghar was about to be 7 to 12 on the age of Muharram, according to the historians and the narrations. So both are sons of Imam Hussain, but being the 6-month-old baby, Ali al-Asghar, is actually an Indo-Pak trend. It's an Indian and a Pakistani thing. It's an Indo-Pak trend. So what we in our language, what we call a baby or somebody that's innocent, we call him Masoom. In Lugha is Masoom. So now, Imam Hussain went to the battlefield and he said, "Give my baby water. Your problem is with me. The baby hasn't done anything. It's just a baby. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't harmed you. It hasn't done anything to you." So then, Hazrat Ali al-Asghar did something that made the opposition team, the army, start to get a little bit of feelings for Imam Hussain and how much, because this is injustice upon injustice, because Yazid's army realized that this is just cruel after cruelty, injustice upon injustice. So Ali al-Asghar, he licked his lips. He licked his head because his lips were dry of thirst for 3 days, because they didn't have water on the 7th, the water supply was cut off. The 8th, they didn't have water. The 9th, they didn't have water. And the 10th, known as Ashura. So Imam Hussain said, "Give my baby water. Just give my baby. I'll even put him on the ground and you give him to water yourself." So now the opposition team, the Umar ibn Saad, realized, he clocked that they're starting to feel a little bit of affection and feelings for Imam Hussain because this is just injustice. And they started to cry. So Umar ibn Saad told Hurmala to kill the baby. He told him to kill the baby. So he used an arrow and he pierced the throat of the blessed son of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. And then what he did, he grabbed the blood of Ali al-Asghar and he threw it in the air. And he said to Allah, "Oh Allah, this is my sacrifice to you. I am giving this for you." So now, it wasn't just any arrow. It wasn't an ordinary arrow. This arrow was used for hunting purposes. This arrow was a 3-pronged arrow. It was a 3-pronged arrow used for hunting, for killing animals, etc. This was not to be used on a human. This was used on a 6-month-old child. Innocent child that has not done anything wrong. So they killed the child instantly. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah ta'ala, I will continue my lecture tomorrow and talking about the biography of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, from the time of Prophet Muhammad when Imam Hussain was born, to a little bit extra details to when Imam Hussain sallallahu alayhi died. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.